Crabs are crustaceans and related to lobsters and shrimps. There are almost 5,000 different species of crabs, about 4,500 are true crabs, plus around 500 are hermit crabs. However, crabs have evolved so that they can walk or run sideways, as well as burrow and swim. The body of a crab is covered by a chitinous shell called a carapace. A crab's abdomen has become fairly reduced and is tucked under the body. This reduction is greatest among the true crabs, which lack the flap-like tail of the hermit crabs and their allies. Instead, the abdomen serves as a brood pouch for the eggs. A crab's segmented body has several pairs of appendages, of which usually 5 pairs serve as walking legs and 2 as sensory antennae. The pincers of a crab, called chelae, are located on the front legs and are used for fighting, display and feeding. Crabs can possess fairly complicated nervous systems and are considered to be more advanced. Crabs can live in more extreme areas because of their ability to adapt well to the changing environment. Crabs can see fairly well with their compound eyes. Their sense of smell and taste are also more advanced, which helps them to find food and mates easier. Reproductive and social behaviors sometimes include complex mating rituals and communication techniques such as drumming or waving the pincers. Crabs tend to be aggressive towards one another, and the males often fight to gain access to the females. Sea crabs' common properties. As sea crabs are arthropods, they have an exoskeleton composed mainly by chitin, which, when being mineralized with calcium carbonate, becomes hard and resistant, so in most cases it is a carapace for the crab. When these crabs grow and develop, they need to mold their exoskeleton, because they no longer fit in it. For this reason, sea crabs make many molts in their lives. This process represents a danger for sea crabs, first of all, because they are vulnerable to the attack of their predators, who await the molting process in order to have easy access to them. Another important aspect is that, if the molt is not carried out properly, the crabs can get trapped in their old shell and die. Before molting, the crab ingests a large amount of water to increase the size of its old shell, and once it feels that it is loosened, it begins to slowly withdraw its body. Once it has completely left the old shell, it is again filled with water, in order to expand the new one a little more, so that it allows it to continue growing comfortably. This molting process can last several hours. For this reason, the crabs hide to be safe from their predators, until the new shell is hard enough. Hermit crabs employ snails' shells or other mollusks to cover their bodies, which unlike that of other crabs is soft, and does not harden. Sea crabs' alimentation habits. No matter what kind of crab it is, these animals are omnivorous by nature, it is to say, they are capable of consuming any type of organic matter. They have powerful pincers, which are sharp, to facilitate the capture and handling of food. The bigger the crab is, the stronger and bigger its tweezers become, since as well as they acquire more size, they also acquire more strength. The claws of the sea crabs are used by them to chop and crush food, such as crustaceans, fish, small creatures, and algae. Most crabs are opportunists, since they hunt their food, but they also take advantage of creatures that are moribund, or simply become scavengers, when they get corpses of animals that are on the shore of the beach. On some occasions, these animals can even consume waste from humans, which unconsciously throw into the sea. In any case, there are sea crabs, which in addition to feeding themselves in the way we already mentioned, also do so by filtering organic particles from the water. In the specific case of the yeti crab, it has a particular way of feeding very different from other crustaceans of this species, which can catch prey of the ideal size to be able to eat it in a single bite. Remember that the teeth of most crabs are in their stomach. But the yeti crabs feed on the filamentous bacteria that inhabit their pincers, and that is what allows them to inhabit relatively calmly in the depths of the sea. Sea crabs' digestive system. Sea crabs have a digestive system very different from that of humans, since this is made up of a straight tube that ultimately becomes a gizzard that has the purpose of crushing and shredding food. In addition to this, the sea crabs have 2 glands which segregate digestive juices, which collaborate with the metabolism of food, so that the crustaceans can absorb their nutrients. These animals have an excretory structure, which acts as a kidney since it purifies their blood. What do the sea crabs eat in captivity? Many people have the bad habit of removing crabs from their natural habitat to exhibit them in their fish tanks and aquariums, where they are given any food, without taking into account that they have a digestive system very different from that of humans. This is one of the main causes of death among these crustaceans, since they will eat any food you offer to them. But there are foods that do not provide the nutrients they need to grow and develop, and the worst is that are harmful for their health. It is best to leave these animals at their natural habitat, where they are able to get their food, and discard what they cannot eat. Also, when you are visiting the beach, you should avoid leaving garbage on the sand, which can be harmful to sea crabs. Sea crabs' reproductive method. Most crabs are oviparous, and all of them have to fertilize their eggs to procreate new creatures. Sea crabs attract their partners by releasing pheromones that attract those of their own species to let them know that they are ready to mate. Depending on the species, this mating period varies a lot, since it can be carried out during spring, others species begin in the summer, and some others 3 days after the new moon has started, or when the tide is at its peak. It is very difficult to describe each of the reproductive processes. However, what is invariable is that it takes place just after the female sheds her exoskeleton. This is because at this time is when the new shell is softer, and it is much easier for both. It is the male who has to court the female, and she decides with which of them she stays. The females in turn store the sperm during a time that varies according to the species, since in some species it can take 2 months, while others can carry them up to a year. When the ovules have fertilized, they go down the abdomen of the female, and they are located under the tail, where they are fixed with a sticky material. Then they will stay in this place until the female moves to the sea to deposit them there. But not in all cases happens in the same way, since in the case of the horseshoe crab, for example, the ovules emerge through short ducts and then flow into the genital operculum. The mating of this species takes place on the shore of the beach, where the male arrives first, and unlike other species, copulation is not performed belly to belly, but since the male is small, it mounts on top of the female, fixing on her shell. Meanwhile, the female is responsible for opening a hole in the sand, where she will put around 2,000 eggs. Once the process is over, they cover the eggs and they go away without returning. Instead of spawning their eggs in the sea like most crabs, this species does so in the sand of the beach, about 20 centimeters deep, and with a diameter of 30 centimeters wide. Instead of looking for a specific depth to spawn, the horseshoe crabs require sediment and porous soil, with good drainage, to contain and cover the eggs, in order to guarantee the life of the offspring. Sea crabs' common habitats. These beautiful animals are distributed throughout the world. There is not a sea on the planet that does not have at least one species of crabs that live in it. If they don't live indefinitely, at least they do it temporarily, because of their migrations. But in all the seas of the world, there are crabs. These marine animals can adapt to any type of habitat, as long as they can find all their food requirements. If the conditions of an environment guarantee their existence, the crabs will stay for a long time. Sea crabs can live even 5 kilometers from the seashore, as long as they can return to it, and there are foods available for them in this new environment, such as small worms, algae, crustaceans, and also rocks where they can hide to be safe from predators. There are also species that can live both at the bottom of the ocean and in bottoms full of mud near the coastal areas, at a depth of no more than 50 meters. Cool facts about crabs. First one, both crabs and lobsters are decapods, or crustaceans with 10 legs. Other decapods include crayfish, prawns, and shrimp. The second one, while lobsters have a long, segmented abdomen that sticks out at the back of their bodies, crabs have a similar but smaller abdomen that is curled up underneath the main shell. The third one, most crabs have flat bodies that enable them to squeeze into very narrow crevices. The fourth one, a crab's shell is really a skeleton on the outside of its body. Insects and spiders also have external skeletons. The fifth one, a strong waterspout may sweep up animals, such as crabs, that live near the water surface, and then rain them down over land. The sixth one, the largest crab in the world, is the giant Japanese spider crab, which can measure up to 13 feet across. The seventh one, horseshoe crabs are not crabs at all. They are not even crustaceans. Instead, they have their own separate class named Merostomata. They have hardly changed since the age of the dinosaurs, and their closest living relatives are spiders. The eighth one, there are 2 kinds of crabs. First are true crabs, or brachiorans, which have a very short abdomen and use 4 pairs of long legs for walking. True crabs include blue crabs, spider crabs, and ghost crabs. Second are false crabs, or anomurans, which have a longer abdominal section and fewer walking legs. False crabs include hermit crabs, king crabs, and squat lobsters. The ninth one, there are about 5,000 species of crabs. Only about 4,500 are true crabs. The other 500 types are false crabs and include hermit crabs, king crabs, porcelain crabs, horseshoe crabs, and crab lice. 10th one, crabs are also known as spiders of the sea because, like crabs, spiders have legs that bend at joints. So, today we are talking about some details about crabs. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more videos.